Today we'll discuss the limitations of research and how, even though we love to rely on research to inform our beliefs when we can, sometimes even the power of research can't be 100% reliable. In our previous video on different types of evidence, we stated that peer-reviewed, published research is the highest quality evidence available. This is true, but like most things, research is not perfect. Time, money, ethics, generalizability, and bias can all complicate research. Welcome to Health or Hoax, the show that empowers people to make informed choices about their own health by taking a critical look at the research on popular claims. Everything in the show is meant to inspire critical thinking rather than pretending that we have the only one valid perspective. We are healthcare students on a journey for truth, looking to help you understand if the fads, diets, and treatments that you've been sold are health or hoax. Let's do it. In order to produce valid results, researchers need to be very thorough, and oftentimes this results in the study taking a really long time. Sometimes even the most up-to-date research is old news because that study could have taken 5-10 years to publish, and now clinicians are doing a completely new treatment. Then that new treatment is going to inform new research, but again, that research might take 5-10 years to get published again. So research can be behind current clinical practices. So if you're just relying on research to inform your treatments, it's possible that you could be out of date in some specific areas. Not all research is expensive. Hey, I did a couple studies in undergrad myself, and they only cost a few $1,000s. But really good research that is capable of informing clinical practice often costs a lot of money. This gives organizations like Big Pharma or the sugar industry the power to kind of skew the research studies that are coming out. In a perfect world, the fancy of these big affluent corporations would line up with the best interests of physicians and people and society in general, but that's not always the case. For example, General Mills is not very likely to fund a study that shows that sugary cereal is not great for kids to eat. They're more likely to fund a study that shows that fat might be bad. Ethics can also limit the types of research that scientists can perform, and that's a good thing. When ethics are ignored, atrocities can occur. For example, during the 1932 Tuskegee study, the Public Health Institute infected 399 black males with syphilis, and they didn't get any of their informed consent. Today, universities have institutional review boards, also known as the IRB, and these entities are designed to stop unethical experiments from ever taking place. For example, if I wanted to do a randomized control trial answering the question, does smoking cause cancer? The IRB wouldn't let me do that. It's not ethical to randomly assign people to a smoking and a non-smoking group because the World Health Organization has come to the conclusion that smoking is generally not good for people's health. If I want to answer my question, does smoking cause cancer, I would need to do an observational study. However, as we talked about in a previous video, observational studies aren't able to establish a cause and effect relationship. So the best I would be able to do is draw a general correlation between smoking and cancer. But as we all know, correlation does not indicate causation. One of the beautiful aspects about healthcare research is its ability to figure out practices and treatments that generally work best for most people. However, people are different. A medication might work really, really well for 80% of people, but it might have no effect on 20% of people, or maybe it has a negative effect on 20% of people. The Valsalva maneuver, essentially bracing as if you're about to get hit in the stomach, works really well to protect most people's spine during a heavy squat. But in people with a heart condition, this technique is going to increase the risk of them fainting. So you're not going to want to recommend that technique for those people. In people with nuts and berry allergies, usually healthy food turns into a deadly poison. I could go on, but the take-home point is that research cannot account for the individuality of people. This is important because if healthcare providers blindly follow the research without taking into account the uniqueness of each one of their patients, they might inadvertently cause that patient harm. Another big problem in research is that researchers and journals can be biased. A 2018 study by DeFries et al. Assembled 105 trials on antidepressant medications. 52 of these trials had negative results and 53 of these trials had positive results. So a pretty even split. However, 98% of the positive studies were published and only 48% of the negative studies were published. Of those 25 negative trials, 10 became positive after publication by omitting unfavorable outcomes or switching the outcomes that the researchers deemed to be clinically important. Basically, they changed the rules in the middle of the game and did some fancy mathematical wizardry to make their results look good. You might be thinking this can't get any worse, but like the people who held out hope for the last episode of Game of Thrones Season 8, you would be wrong. Of the 15 remaining negative trials, 5 had heavy spin and 5 had mild spin. Spin basically amounts to the authors confusing readers with hand-wavy science words and then telling them that the treatment was more effective than their actual data supports. And to finish it off, one of the negative studies claimed that their results had a positive trend. So we started with 52 negative studies and ended up with 4 that stood their ground and claimed that their results were negative. This is a major limitation of the current model of research, reporting, and publication. And if you're interested in learning more about different biases, check out our video on battling biases. Lastly, there are types of questions that scientific research just cannot address. I can't do a randomized control trial on whether or not Lord of the Rings or Star Wars is better, even though Lord of the Rings kicks the shit out of Star Wars. Go ahead, comment, fight me. Similarly, questions about religion, ethics, and philosophy can't be answered by scientific research. Today we learned that research is not perfect. It can be limited by time, money, and ethical concerns. It cannot account for how unique people are. Biases lead to positive results being more prevalent in the literature than negative results. And you just can't use an RCT to prove questions like, is there a god? Is it wrong to murder people? Or which Pokemon is the best starter? Even though we all know it's Charmander. Dude, Charizard is awesome. Have you seen Mega Charizard? Like X and Y? He just keeps getting more awesome. And he's a dragon. And you just like throw a little ball and a fucking dragon comes out. Like, what's like a turtle is gonna come out? Or like a weird looking frog monster? Like, don't get me wrong, I like the other two, but like, everybody wants to own a dragon.